Officer killed outside a high school basketball game last night, as well as the man accused of killing him. But those who knew Officer Martinez Mitchum remember him as a man of service tonight. Ferguson described how that night Mitchum was protecting young people and their families watching a basketball game inside the George Washington Carver High School. The NOPD says the shooter tried to enter the game without a mask and got into a fight with another school employee when Mitchum intervened before he was fatally shot.
As a result of him intervening and attempting to escort this individual out of the school, which is right at the front door of this school or this building, this individual pulled his weapon out and fired a shot that struck the officer in his chest.
That night, NOPD arrested John Shallerhorn on 2 charges. NOPD says Shallerhorn not only put the weapon on the ground after firing the 2 shots, allowing officers to arrest him, but they also charged him with armed robbery at the high school. They say at some point in the night, he threatened a man sitting in his car with a gun and stole the man's medallion chain.
What was that phone call like when you got it on Wednesday night?
It went beyond my prayers. As I said, we pray for the best and we try to accept the worst. And that's what we had to do.
Glenn Brown Sr. says his great-nephew, 15-year-old Dalen Burnett, showed the family a glimmer of hope when he moved his finger just 1 day before he passed away. But now their family is grieving his loss.
We all were just pulling for a major miracle. And to get that kind of phone call, you shake your head and say, oh no. Oh no. But at that point, there's nothing you can do but breathe in and accept.
On Friday, 15-year-old Thomas Quarles made his second appearance in court. According to the Jefferson County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, Quarles is alleged to be the shooter of the Watson Chapel Junior High School shooting on Monday. In the affidavit, Quarles was originally being held for probable cause on the charge of first-degree battery as an adult, but his charges have been upgraded to capital murder. Brown says this is a tragedy where no one wins.
Another breaking story right now at 5 o'clock. There was a shooting in an elementary school parking lot in Chesterfield County. We broke into programming just before 3 o'clock this afternoon as Chopper 9 flew over Edwards Elementary School in Chesterfield. Police say one person was shot and they are still looking for the shooter.
Thankfully, no children were hurt, but definitely a scary situation for everybody at that school along West Boulevard. Channel 9's South Carolina reporter Greg Suskin is live out there for us tonight. Greg?
Yeah, and Chesterfield police saying that a woman shot her son-in-law here in the parking lot of Edwards Elementary, which is right on Highway 9. It happened in a parking space right up against the front of the building there where the sidewalk is. And right now, police are looking for that woman who they believe was the shooter, identified as 54-year-old Jacqueline Purifoy. I want to show you some video now. We have a picture of a bullet hole in her son-in-law's car. He was standing outside the car next to her when this happened. We also have a picture of the SUV. They say that Purifoy was driving it as a black and gray Kia Sportage. They're looking for her, looking for that car, and consider her to be armed and dangerous at this time. But we don't have a lot of information really about what led up to this, except that both people were there in separate cars this afternoon. When the man was shot, he was shot in the hip, managed to walk inside the school building and wait there for help while the suspect took off. Now, I talked to the police chief here a little while ago. He told me that there were no children around the area at all when this happened this afternoon.
Their kids are safe here. They were safe today. At no point, and I want to stress at no point, were any children or staff at this school in danger today.
As you can imagine, the school was immediately locked down once this happened. This was around 1:30, which is about an hour before normal pickup time. Some parents had started to arrive here and wait to pick up their children. More on the school's response to this coming up tonight on Eyewitness News at 6.
Good evening. I'm Steve Hammond. That is where we begin this evening at 6. Delaware State Police now say there are a total of 3 people dead in this case. A 21-year-old woman was found dead from a gunshot wound in a Smyrna neighborhood last night. That death has been connected to this investigation. And that in addition to the 38-year-old woman who was shot and killed yesterday morning, and her husband, the 47-year-old gunman who police say shot and killed himself in his car yesterday just after 11 a.m. No names have been released. Delaware State Police say that suspect and his 38-year-old wife arrived in the same car yesterday morning at Smyrna Middle to pick up their daughter for a doctor's appointment. There was a verbal argument outside the car which resulted in the husband shooting and killing his wife. He then fled Smyrna, heading west and leading state police on a high-speed chase into Maryland.
The video we're about to show will not show the shooting or the victim of the shooting.
315 PD, I got the suspect. 1016.
That is Juan Salcedo Jr. back in August after he's accused of opening fire on Benny Hargrove, also a 13-year-old. Lapel video shows an APS police officer restraining Salcedo, reading him his Miranda rights, then leading him away from the scene. After the officer cuffs Salcedo to a fence, he does not have much to say other than to make sure that she gets his name right.
What's your name? Juan what? Juan Celso. Juan Celso. Juan Salcedo.
Salcedo is scheduled for a hearing next week to determine if he is competent to stand trial. APS also released surveillance video of the shooting and a crowd of students running from the scene right after the shooting. And it looks like Benny Hargrove was the one and only intended victim.
Well, today was the first day students at an Orangeburg County High School were back in the building after officials say 14 and law enforcement officials say security at the school is now being ramped up to make students and staff feel as safe as possible. Our Saskia Lindsay spent the day at Orangeburg Wilkinson High School and has latest updates.
Monday looked a lot different than afternoon dismissal last Wednesday at Orangeburg Wilkinson High School, when deputies say a 14-year-old shot 3 other students behind the school.
It was pretty scary, very, very scary.
Since then, the school has ramped up security.
It was actually pretty good. I actually do feel safe now.
Orangeburg County law enforcement say soon after the shooting, they arrested the teenage suspect on school grounds. The school was then shut for the rest of last week. Students returned to school on Monday. Students now have to get cleared by going through a metal detector. Students will also be required to use clear book bags, and those bags will be checked daily.
They had to keep checking backpacks. It's technically the usual, except they just over more protective. They got like extras like security guards, and that's very much appreciated.
Superintendent Sean Foster says despite the terrifying events last week, he assures students and staff it is safe to be back on school grounds. School officials say they have counselors available at the school for anyone who may need it. Some students tell Watch Fox News they believe gun violence amongst teens is a problem that's getting out of control in the area.
It should be more about wanting to get out of school, graduating, wanting to succeed in life, not take other people's lives.
Sharon Hill teenager has been charged with first-degree murder for his role in the death of an 8-year-old girl, even though he didn't fire the bullet that killed her. Police say 16-year-old Angelo A.J. Ford exchanged gunfire with a man outside of an Academy Park High School football game back in August.
One student was shot in the leg, and a 15-year-old is now charged with attempted murder. But that 15-year-old's mother says there's more to this story. WECT's Kendall McGee sat down with her today and joins us now. Kendall, she told you she's concerned about her child's safety?
Fran, Dominique Diablo says this is no longer just about her child, that the school system failed her, and she was concerned for her son's safety well before Monday's shooting. Thursday morning, dozens filled a community center called the Sokoto House in solidarity for the teen accused of shooting another student. Football coaches and former kindergarten and first grade teachers of the teen now charged with attempted murder gathered to support the 15-year-old and his mother, Dominique Diablo.
It's love. I feel love. This shows that my son is loved.
Diablo says her family has feared for her son's safety for some time now. She claims her son was attacked on school grounds on the very first day of the school year, before he even got into the building. Her son was suspended for 10 days, and she says that suspension was shortened to 5 days when leaders determined the attacker wasn't even a New Hanover High student. The day shots rang out at the high school was her son's first day back. Diablo says she was nervous about sending him.
The school shooting. Now, he insinuated an ongoing tiff between Miller and Evans months before the school shooting on September 1st. Now, inside the courtroom, Maurice Evans Jr.'s mother and siblings sitting right behind the action, very emotional. The attorney's goal in court today was to set a reasonable bond for Maurice Evans Jr.
Chaos that unfolded at Heritage High School yesterday morning. And just before noon, shots rang out in the hallways of the school. 2 teens were shot and taken to the hospital. A juvenile boy taken into custody and accused of pulling the trigger. Today, we've learned the gun used to hurt those 2 kids has a history in the state.
Casey Baylor sat down with a student reliving those moments.
I can still hear that bang.
Tiana Rice says the sound of gunshots inside Heritage High School is something she'll never forget. A day later, she's just happy to be safe at home.
It's a blessing. Just one wrong move yesterday and I could have lost my life or just been severely hurt.
Her mother, Kim Osborne, says she raced to the school when Rice texted her what happened. Osborne watched as students ran from the building. In Newport News, Casey Baylor, 13 News Now.
Prosecutors described a boy who'd been having some trouble with a fellow student, had wanted to fight him, and who ultimately ambushed him with a gun. No cameras allowed in court as the 13-year-old suspect heard his charges: criminal attempted first-degree murder, carrying a firearm on school property, and employing a firearm during a dangerous felony. This after prosecutors say he admitted to shooting another 13-year-old boy Thursday at Cummings K-8. He allegedly told police he and the victim had been fighting for several days.
It was really some conflict, words going back and forth, maybe over 3 or 4 weeks.
The victim's father confirming there was animosity between the two. WREG obtained information from police saying both teens met to fight in a hallway that morning, but somehow ended up in a deserted stairwell. It's there prosecutors say surveillance video shows the suspect hiding behind the stairwell. He then allegedly comes up behind the victim, pulls a gun from his pocket, and shoots him once in the abdomen.
God has shown grace. Thank God my son's alive, grace and mercy, and I want to see that same grace and mercy flow to the other child.
Police haven't said how the suspect got the gun. As for how he made his escape from the school, police say he left by vehicle, but it's still unclear who was driving. What we do know is that sometime in the next 2 hours, he turned himself in at the Rains Police Precinct.
After 2 surgeries and a blood transfusion, first grader Tylen Parker is now back home in Newton. His mom says he maintained a positive attitude during this tragic incident. Now she's fighting to make sure this doesn't happen to another child at Newton Public Schools.
It's pretty dangerous there.
Following last week's school shooting, Antoinette Evans has decided to withdraw both of her children from Newton Elementary School.
If this is not the first incident where a child has brought a gun to school, this is actually the third but the first was the one who was shot. You know, it might be a fourth if you don't, do something.
Evans feels the school could have done more to prevent this tragedy.
When the first incident happened, metal detectors should have been placed inside the school. You enforce clear backpacks, but kids still get guns into the school.
Newton Police Department labeled the incident as an accidental shooting. However, Evans has her doubts after hearing her son's side of the story.
He kept on playing with it and he shot. And I went to go tell the teacher and he was the tenant. He was shooting a bird like he was duck hunting and he shot me. He didn't mean to do it. The gun. He didn't know the gun was cocked.
Tyler nor his mother feel any resentment toward the people responsible, but Evans would like a response from the mother of the shooter.
I wish that she would have reached out to me and just apologized.
We begin with a $5.2 million bail set for the suspected gunman who shot a high school principal Friday.
Kelsey is now behind bars and charged with aggravated assault and deadly conduct. According to investigators, Kelsey bought the rifle used in the shooting online. Instead of carrying out his alleged 6-year grudge, authorities say Kelsey was blocked by the principal, Eric Espinosa, who was shot in the back and hospitalized.
Court documents show 18-year-old David Tillman says he accidentally hit the 16-year-old in the arm. This happened outside the Ben Davis Carmel football game on Friday. No one inside that stadium was hurt. Fox 59's Courtney Crown joins us now with more details on what happened, but also what can be done to prevent situations like this.
Yeah, Bershel, court documents show the school district's police chief saw the suspect fire a semi-automatic handgun several times in the direction of a crowd outside of Gate 3. Youth advocates say this incident is a symptom of a greater issue concerning children right here in Indianapolis. Scary moments outside of Friday's Ben Davis Carmel football game at Ben Davis High School. According to court documents, school administrators were trying to get a crowd out of the football stadium, and school police came for backup. Then police say 18-year-old David Tillman fired shots in the direction of this crowd. Court documents say Tillman fired warning shots at the victim in, quote, self-defense.
It's still concerning whenever we have shots fired at a high school football game that results in someone receiving a gunshot wound, especially a teenager.
This was not a bullying incident. And I just want to take that narrative out of the equation.
2 weeks after a Timberview High School student shot 15-year-old Zacchaeus Selby and teacher Calvin Pettit and grazed a teenage girl, Arlington Police Chief Al Jones gave an update on the investigation.
Mr. Simpkin is involved in high-risk activity, and that high-risk activity led to the disagreement within the community.
Chief Jones's statement was a total rebuke of statements made from the suspect, Timothy Simpkins' family, but he did not go into further detail about what type of high-risk behavior Simpkins was allegedly involved in. He would only say Simpkins and Selby had some sort of disagreement outside of school, and that bled into the classroom, leading to a fight and ultimately the shooting.
It just sounded like it was right there at the door.
Phillips Academy student Diana Taylor heard the shots around 3:20 as school was letting out. Chicago police say a school security guard opened the door for dismissal, and he was shot almost immediately from about 10 feet away. The bullets traveled inside the school, hitting the 14-year-old student in the abdomen. Seth Cyrus knows both the student and the guard.
I was walking towards like the Marianos, and we heard gunshots, so me and the people I was with, we ran to the Marianos.
As a mom, I'm just thankful that my baby is safe.
Parents frantically rushed to the school as they got word of the shooting.
So far, no one is in custody, and it is important to note that Phillips Academy last year, they chose to remove both of their armed school resource officers who who are also Chicago police officers.
A shooting outside an Aurora High School. 3 teenagers will face attempted murder charges, and they're going to be charged as adults. Thanks for joining us at 6. I'm Dominic Garcia.
And I'm Karen Lee. Earlier this month, gunfire injured 3 students in the parking lot during the high school's open campus lunch hour. Now, days later, police arrested these 3 teenage boys in connection with the shooting. All 3 boys are 16 years old. CBS Sports' Kelly Worthman joins us tonight. And Kelly, you learned in court this morning a little bit more about why this shooting happened.
And Karen, we learned from the arrest affidavits that there was actually a planned fight at a nearby fast food restaurant. But when not everyone showed up, one of the teens arrested admitted to police that that's when they came here in search of members of a certain gang, and things quickly escalated to a shooting. Security cameras capture the chaotic scene. Children running for cover as shots are fired in the parking lot of Hinckley High School. The same photo shows a gunman extending their weapon from the back seat of a pickup truck. According to court documents, that is 16-year-old Larry Jefferson. Driving the truck is 16-year-old Dalen Brewer. Moments later, both teens begin shooting their handguns from the truck. One of the victims, a 17-year-old girl, was hit as she was returning to school from lunch. Another 17-year-old boy was headed toward the front door when he was shot. An Aurora police officer at the school sees this commotion and fires at the white truck before it left school property. Eventually, police would arrest Jefferson and Brewer and another 16-year-old Diego Flores. All 3 are facing attempted murder charges as well as assault charges and possession of a weapon on school property.
A so-called ghost gun, or untraceable built-at-home firearm, is at the center of the shooting that happened at the Cesar Chavez High School Monday. Phoenix police said a 15-year-old suspect was caught this morning near the school. Investigators believe the 16-year-old that was shot was trying to sell the gun to the 15-year-old, but was given fake money, according to police. The 16-year-old confronted the 15-year-old and was then shot, but is expected to recover. Phoenix Union High School District does not use metal detectors at their schools, but police say that a metal detector could potentially pick up a ghost gun. The district opted to get rid of school resource officers last year, something that the superintendent didn't appear to be reconsidering.
After a shooting Tuesday night at the high school basketball game.
My mom was there, and during the midst of the commotion, I was on the phone with her.
Rajnesh Perry's cousin was also playing in the basketball game for Humboldt. Perry says the shooting happened near the concession stand in the lobby of the gym.
The one who actually died, I'm not related to him, but his brother is my cousin, and he was there when it happened.
Police say 21-year-old Justin Kavan Pankey of Humboldt was killed in the shooting. 18-year-old Xavier Clifton was transported by helicopter to the Regional 1 Medical Center in Memphis. And a third victim, Dontavius Cross, was taken by private vehicle to a Jackson hospital where he was treated and released. Police have not said what the shooting was about. Neighbors who live right across the street from the high school are wondering how a gun got on campus. Penny King didn't hear the commotion last night, but is disturbed by what happened.
I'm a loss for words. It shouldn't happen anywhere, but it don't happen in Humboldt. I'm really sad for our community right now.
Police say Jaden Hardiman is facing several charges, including 1 count of first-degree murder, 2 counts of attempted murder, and carrying a weapon on school property.